Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video. And yes, you read the title, you know what I'm reviewing next, and well, as it was teased in the last review video, how else in the last review video was I able to really describe this and give a hint? But you now know, and thus you're watching my review, so yeah. So that's right. I am finally reviewing the next installment of the original batch of Pink Panther films. Now, me and my dad, we reviewed the first Pink Panther film, if you want to go check that out. Now, for this, going solo, in fact, because my dad passed on, doing this one with me, that's okay. It's hard to believe, even as of now, and for anybody who are Pink Panther fans, and for the first time watching the original Pink Panther films, the original batch of Pink Panther films, and to discover and realize that there are a few, mainly just two, where they both have nothing to do with this guy. Well, I mean, the Diamond, pretty much. Besides, because the Pink Panther only being in the opening credits, but yeah, just mainly it's on the Diamond named the Pink Panther. So, just only two movies in the Pink Panther movie series where it has nothing to do with the Pink Panther Diamond whatsoever. However, it does have to do, still, with whom solved the cases of the Pink Panther Diamond, Inspector Jacques Clouseau. Yeah, so that's right. From 1964, and again, the second installment, and right after, literally right after the first Pink Panther film, and not to mention, it is celebrating its anniversary. That's right. Again, from 1964, A Shot in the Dark. Yes, A Shot in the Dark. Yeah, I'm glad to have finally watched this movie, and I gotta say, I'm quite glad that I don't know. Actually, I don't recall. I would know, but I don't think so. I didn't watch any clips, bits, and pieces of this film before watching it fully, with the exception of the opening credits. That I've seen, okay? So yeah. And anybody who's a sucker for the opening credits to any of the Pink Panther films, yeah, watching Shot in the Dark, like I said, not really what I was expecting, and the direction that this movie was taking, and, trying to figure out who the murderer is, and everybody being a suspect in one house, this mansion, I guess you can say, basically the Ballon resident house, yeah. I don't know, as I said, it seems more like a mansion. It probably is, but, it is a big house, so why would it not be referred to as a mansion? But, yeah, and with Inspector Clouseau, and, of course, it wouldn't be the same if we didn't have any clumsy moments with Inspector Clouseau, being sometimes a bumbling idiot, Not, no offense to Clouseau. Besides, Clouseau, in a way, is smart, and when he figures out the cases and such, no doubt about it, and whom he falls in love with in this movie, and as the film proceeds, he believes that whom is the most pointed victim, pointing fingers at a suspect. Well, he starts to believe that she probably didn't do it, and his attempt to keep watch on her and to try and protect her and, to still try to figure out who is this murderer. But yeah, of course, the funny moments in this movie were pretty funny. I definitely got some good chuckles, and from good old the late Peter Sellers as Inspector Clouseau. How could you not laugh at anything that Peter Sellers has done when he's played Jacques Clouseau? And even, some other characters that got into some clumsy situations, like getting tangled with Clouseau, pretty much, yeah. And I was guessing like, who could possibly be the murderer? There were two that I was thinking of, and I'll mention them a little later on. But, you know, I mean, because it's obvious, you know, you would not expect, like, a specific character, like, if it's, like, say, 2 or 3, you wouldn't suspect that they would be doing anything. However, whom it is, yeah, I kind of didn't see coming. You know, even when one of them was acting a bit suspicious, especially towards Clouseau, you know. I'm sure you guys probably felt the same way too. And, yeah, that's amazing because, on Rotten Tomatoes, I sometimes point out Rotten Tomatoes, their score on A Shot in the Dark is 94%. Well, good for Rotten Tomatoes. They seem to really enjoy it. Yeah, and I did too. Yeah, and besides, as far as I recall, A Shot in the Dark did very well, despite the fact that there was some trouble moments and, you know, during the making of this movie between Blake Edwards and Peter Sellers. I'll mention that once I'm finished with the first things I have to say. But yeah, overall, A Shot in the Dark, it was good. You know, it was good, and, you know, the fact that this has nothing to do with the Pink Panther, but still having Jacques Clouseau, and that it's canon to the Pink Panther movies, the first batch of Pink Panther movies, it's amazing. Okay, so, as always, for me, read the description / the story. A chambermaid at the Ballon residence in Paris is accused of murdering her lover against the wishes of Chief Inspector Dreyfus. The infamous Clouseau is assigned to the case. Death follows the maid wherever she goes, yet Clouseau is stubbornly convinced of her innocence. Okay, so with that out of the way, a little bit of background, because, yeah, as I said, because, you know, even though, and it's great to see that A Shot in the Dark did very well, there were some troubles going on during the making of this movie, again, between Blake Edwards and Peter Sellers. They had a bit of a disagreement with what was going on in this movie. And it was after working and finishing and completing A Shot in the Dark, Edwards and Sellers declared to one another that they would never work again, you know, doing a movie and such. But thankfully, we'd all be glad that that didn't last long. And I'm pretty sure, I would guess that, you know, Blake Edwards and Peter Sellers, they couldn't stay mad at one another and just, you know, their friendship ending. Because, yeah, things were patched up eventually when they would do another movie, and eventually when they would do more of the Pink Panther films. And until, sadly, ultimately, when Peter Sellers would sadly pass away. Yeah. So it was great to see that, you know, Edwards and Sellers, they did rekindle, and everything turned out great. And I would wonder, like, obviously they would have known that A Shot in the Dark did very well, and maybe they were like, you know, we were fighting over this when how this finally turned out, you know. And by the way, because it was after A Shot in the Dark where, you know, the next movie that would have and involve Inspector Clouseau, and his name would be the title of the movie. And instead of Peter Sellers, because Peter Sellers was busy with another movie, well, and obviously during that time, you know, because, well, Edwards and Sellers, they decided not to work with one another. This time you had Alan Arkin, the late Alan Arkin, playing Inspector Clouseau. Yeah. But anyways, so with that out of the way, with some background, as I sometimes do talk about in my reviews, getting into the film itself. Yeah. First off, because an interesting way that this movie opens, because one song number that plays in this movie, and if I remember to do so, yeah, I'm good at I'm sometimes not good at forgetting. I'll put the name of the song in a text. I think it was pretty good, yeah, and well sung. We basically open at the Ballon residence house, and we see a bunch of characters just going back and forth and pacing around the house, sneaking and so on. and, like, one of them being Mrs. Ballon, meeting with someone, you know, in another part of the house, and, well, there's clear signs of some affairs going on. And then at one point, there's gunfire in the dark, you know, and hence the title, A Shot in the Dark. And then we get our opening credits. Yeah. And the main theme music that's in this, that the music and composer of this movie, which of course being Henry, what was it? Oh, crap. You know what I'm talking about. Just, yeah, why do I not see his name? Yeah, okay, there he is. I'm sorry. Henry Mancini, if I'm pronouncing his last name right. His last name slipped out of my head, and now I remember. Yeah. The theme music that Henry wrote for this, well, it's another great piece of music that Henry wrote alongside with the Pink Panther theme, because the theme music that's in this, and which would become Inspector Clouseau's main theme music, you know, dun 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 dun, dun, that's just so good. Again, Henry Mancini, a musical genius, without a doubt. That would become, well, again, being the main theme music for Inspector Clouseau, and when, later on, Inspector Clouseau would get a cartoon of his own. And there were a couple of times, I think maybe just in one Pink Panther cartoon, where Inspector Clouseau's theme music was played. I remember what it was. It was in one of the earliest Pink Panther cartoons where this robber, you know, breaks into this building and he's trying to open a safe, and the Pink Panther's living in the safe. If you know which Pink Panther cartoon I'm talking about, you know. So, and for those of you that, like me, who are Pink Panther fans, and again, that being for the Inspector Clouseau cartoon, and I actually did watch very little, and I say very little, of the Inspector Clouseau cartoons. It was, I remember watching them, I think it was either Cartoon Network or Boomerang from Cartoon Network, either which, and because they played that, they of course played the Pink Panther cartoons, and they also played those with the ant and Aardvark, and the one with this fly and yellow bird. You know, if you know what I'm talking about, yeah. So I remember that time when they were sometimes played, these batch of cartoons from the world of Pink Panther, from the same people doing the Pink Panther cartoons and all the other cartoons that they were doing. Yeah. And when Pink Panther and Friends happened, well, because the Aardvark and Ant, they would get their own segment of shorts, cartoons, you know. Anyways, so getting back into A Shot in the Dark, because, yeah, again, the opening credits, you know, being animated, really good, of course, and funny, of course, as you would expect. And, well, because a case is upon, you know, the chief of police and such, and, you know, the Gambrelli murder case, and whom is suspected to have killed this guy, which, by the way, because when I was watching this movie, I had to check and see, and because now whether if we kind of saw him on screen or not, well, and obviously in the opening of this movie, no, I mean, he's not, whomever it was, but probably, maybe I just didn't, I didn't notice, like, maybe because we never see him, but his name is mentioned, Miguel, if I'm even saying that right. Again, you know me sometimes, and just a heads up, probably some of the other characters, I'm gonna try my best to pronounce their names, you know, especially their names being French and such, you know. Anyways, so this guy named Miguel, who, you know, was, like, having an affair and, you know, tangled with, say, this woman named Gambrielle Ellie, and another person. Just, yeah, a lot of people in the Ballon residence, some of them having an affairs and such, yeah, and Miguel being the biggest one. Well, and one of the first two characters that we see is Commissioner Dreyfus, Charles Dreyfus, being played by Herbert Lom. And we also have Francai, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, being played by Andre Moraine. I'm sure I got his full name right. Again, you know me sometimes, and I gave you a heads up. And yeah, I mean, surely, because his name would be easy to know, but sometimes to remember, that is. Well, basically, he informs the commissioner that about, they talk about the case and such, and French Eye, tells the commissioner that Inspector Clouseau has been assigned to this case, and the commissioner just be like, oh God, like, to him that's not a good sign, and knowing Clouseau, so Clouseau being assigned to this case, and him arriving to the Ballon residence house, and and to name off those that are a part of the Ballon residence house, I would say residence mansion, whatever, however you prefer it. It is a house / a mansion, but anyways. Okay, so we have Benjamin Ballon being played by the late George Sanders. Great actor, and he's done some really good films. To the Batman fans, including me, he was the first actor to portray and play Mr. Freeze in the Batman 60s show. And for us hardcore Disney fans, we would know him as the voice of Shere Khan in The Jungle Book, again, Benjamin Ballon. There's also his wife, Dominique Ballon, being played by Tracy Reed. And Dominique Ballon, because her two getting an affair and such, and linked with Miguel and so on. And there's also Madame Lafarge being played by Vanda Godsell. And there's Pierre being played by Maurice Kaufman. There's Dudu being played by Anne Lynn. That is how her name is pronounced, Dudu. And there's also Maurice being played by Martin Benson. And something about Martin Benson, and because I have the IMDb page pulled up, right below Martin Benson, someone else, which I'll mention in a little bit. So again, Maurice, he's one of the butlers, and there's also Henry Lafarge, the husband of Madame Lafarge, and Henry Lafarge being played by Douglas Wilmer. Douglas Wilmer. So those are those that are a part of the Ballon residence and the positions they have, like some of them being maids and butlers and such, and one of them being a gardener, Clouseau, again, having arrived at the Ballon residence mansion, that's how I should refer it from there on, the Ballon mansion, because it's kind of pretty much what it is. Anyways, Clouseau arriving and thus, getting onto the case and, having conversations with those in the Ballon mansion, and, from Benjamin to Maurice and the others, and alongside with Clouseau throughout the film, his sidekick being Hercule LaJoie, if I'm getting his first name right, being played by Graham Stark. This, and he predates some other sidekicks for Clouseau, like, I remember most notably Ponto from the two Pink Panther films with Steve Martin, and Hercule, I know, because I'm having trouble pronouncing it, and we all know another, famous detective going by the same name, so so him at times helping out Clouseau, and, sometimes they get into some clumsy situations, and anybody else that gets in Clouseau's way. And then, at one point, Clouseau meets with, someone else, a part of the Ballon mansion, which being Maria Gambrelli, which, yeah, her last name being used for this murder case, and she's heavily suspected that she possibly could have killed Miguel and such. And Maria being played by Aki Summer. Yeah, Aki Summer. I'm sure I'm getting her first name right. And slowly but surely throughout this film, Clouseau starting to, start to have feelings for Maria. And then, again, how he later on is suspecting that probably, yeah, she didn't commit the murder and so on, and with the shotgun and so on, the handgun, pistol, yeah. And, them kind of hitting it off, and Clouseau asking her some questions, even some just, random questions, and, at times, like, asking her if, Miguel raped her and so on. And, and to speed things up because, yeah, Clouseau, always getting into some clumsy situations and, returning to the Ballon residence mansion. And I think, yeah, 2 or 3 times he gets off, he's off of the case and someone else stepping in. And, yeah, because Dreyfus stepping in and taking care of this, but Mr. Ballon, Benjamin Ballon, sharing Dreyfus that, Clouseau seems like the right guy for this case and such, and, was starting to like Clouseau. And Ballon, can't argue with this, and, later on he rehires Clouseau on the murder case. And a couple of times in this movie, Clouseau getting in a tussle with someone he's been helping to train with, karate and such. Karate lessons, basically. Kato. And Kato being played by Burt Kuok, if I'm still getting his last name right. And yeah, because, as I mentioned, Martin Benson and Burt Kuok, well, coincidentally, the same year that this movie came out, they were in another movie, which, by the way, it was the last film that I reviewed before this. They were in the 3rd installment of the James Bond films with Sean Connery, Goldfinger. Yeah, so I didn't even realize, and when I was looking up A Shot in the Dark, its IMDb page, and knowing who was in this movie, and seeing Martin Benson and Burt, I was like, I was saying in my head, wow, like, what a big coinky dinky. So, yeah. So, again, at times, Kato sneaking up on Clouseau, because, again, karate lessons, and sometimes not a good time for him to come in and for some karate lessons with Inspector Clouseau, because, as we all know, Clouseau being a master at karate, and his hands being weapons, as he says later on. And yeah, Clouseau still, solving the case, cracking the case and such, and, and later on when, everybody in the Ballon mansion is suspects, not just Maria, but, yeah, because it is possible, because, especially because how each of them living in the Ballon residence, how most of them act suspicious, not just Maria. Okay, and I'll go ahead and say, whom were the 2 I was thinking of? Like, maybe it could be either one of them, I was thinking it was either Hercule or French Eye, who sticks alongside with the commissioner. I thought it was either the 2 of them, either one of them. But boy, was I wrong. And when it is revealed towards the end of the film who it is. But yeah, of course until we get there. Yeah. And to speed things up still, Clouseau keeping an eye and watch on Maria, and and even when she gets put in jail, and when she's at times been released out of jail, and thanks to Clouseau, well, him keeping a watch on her and in disguise right at the jail building, the prison, basically, and how, they basically come up to him, like the guard outside of the prison or someone else that, is in the Ballon residence, coming up to him and questioning him if he has this or that license, like a license for selling those balloons, a license for, the paintings, or licensing for hunting, and with those happening, just getting himself arrested, and we cut to this police, truck, and and we would sometimes see, like, through the window and such, the things that he was doing, like balloons sticking outside behind the police vehicle, or, Clouseau in the, painter disguise looking outside of the windows. I tell you, it's insane. But funny, of course. Okay, anyways, and still, to speed things up, a couple of sequences, very important sequences that I want to now, talk about and such. One where Clouseau, back at the Ballon residence, and, meeting with Benjamin Ballon, and Benjamin Ballon is playing some pool, and Clouseau joining him and getting, one of those sticks, referring to them as, like, cues, I think, like, clubs, how they say it. And Clouseau just, God, even struggling with those sticks and picking out, like not picking the best one. And when Mr. Ballon picks the best one for him, and it's bented, like, golly, like, yeah. How, yeah, you think that he's gonna manage to, work with that, but yeah. And the conversation that Clouseau has with Benjamin Ballon, and we even see those that work in the Ballon mansion, yeah, they are listening in on, trying to listen in on the conversation that Clouseau's having with Mr. Ballon, most notably Maria. She's right outside of the door. And Clouseau suspecting that maybe Mr. Ballon is a victim and, could be the killer and such. And I like how Benjamin Ballon, how calm he is, and how he handles Clouseau's clumsy situations very well, and assuring Clouseau that it's all right, and when Clouseau apologizes to Mr. Ballon, that's really good. I like that. Probably one of those very few characters where he's perfectly okay and manages to handle Clouseau's clumsy situations. Well, that's interesting, and that is good to see. Yeah, and again, that's why I say I really like that in this movie, yeah. And again, George Sanders, a great actor, and him in this movie, well, he's great, and, even him having a few funny moments, definitely. So again, yeah, Clouseau suspecting and pointing at Mr. Ballon, but Ballon assuring Clouseau that there's no way that he would do such a thing, and little does Benjamin Ballon know what his wife had done, so, yeah. And still, Clouseau, when it's time for Clouseau to leave, and even when, say, Clouseau had Hercule, you know what I'm talking about, having his partner go after and follow Dominique Ballon, because when they first arrived at the Ballon residence, and before, he played pool with Mr. Ballon, he had, I'll just call him by his last name, LaJoy. He had LaJoy go after Mrs. Ballon, and once Clouseau and Ballon were finished with their business of playing pool and the conversation and questions and such that Clouseau was giving to Mr. Ballon, and very kind of Mr. Ballon arranging for someone to drive Clouseau to his destination, because he was without, LaJoy and so on. And Clouseau still having difficulties, like, with the sticks, and even when Marie steps in and, helps out with, putting all the, the pool sticks back up and such. And yeah, and when Clouseau is driven to where he meets up with LaJoy, and LaJoy giving Clouseau the report on where Dominic is and which hotel she's gone to and the room she's in, Clouseau going on alone and trying to find her. And when at one point he hears some screaming, but it's opera singing. How does he not know it's opera singing? And when he was about to break down the door, but someone opened it for him, and he just keeps running, and then he flies out of a window and lands in a I want to say fountain or pool. And a few times where he did accidentally, slipped into, in a pool, a fountain and such. It's pretty funny. Yeah, and speaking of which, yeah, because one of the next sequences in this film, and I was wondering because some still shots that I had seen of this movie, and I think in a couple of posters of A Shot in the Dark, yeah, we can see Clouseau and Maria, like, topless. They have no, like, shirts on and such. Well, later on in the film, because Clouseau is informed by LaJoy, and when Clouseau is, keeping watch of Maria, because LaJoy basically informs Clouseau that he saw Maria make her way to this campground, this campsite and such. I mean, it is basically what it is. And Clouseau, proceeding inside of this campsite, and and he can see that the guy up at the front desk, which, that being the respitanist, however, I don't know why I'm having trouble pronouncing this one word, but I'm sure you know what it is. Being played by Reginald Beckwith, yeah. We can see that he's not wearing a shirt, and, well, he's naked, and we have no idea at first, and neither does Clouseau, like, why is this guy up at the front desk naked and such? And Clouseau introducing himself and asking, if Maria came in and so on, and pointing out to Clouseau that, made her way out in the back entrance and so on, and, then Clouseau comes face to face with someone else who's naked and playing a guitar. And the guy playing the guitar, basically giving Clouseau the heads up that he can't proceed further on because he has to be, without being completely butt naked. And yeah, this is where Clouseau finds out, and us audience, that Clouseau has found Maria, the location of where Maria is hiding. She's hiding, and Clouseau finds himself in a nudist colony campsite. Yep. And it is funny, of course, and, well, since this is from 1964 and how they did nudity and such, especially since this is a comedy, So yeah, Clouseau has to be completely butt naked in order to proceed in and try to locate and find Maria, and thus that's what he does, and making his way to where the pool is, and he can see everybody else completely butt naked, even those who are playing instruments, and they're playing the theme music to A Shot in the Dark, and aka Inspector Clouseau's theme music. And Clouseau not very comfortable with this, and covering himself with a guitar, but I do like how he is able to wear shoes. Surely that's not a problem. I'm just saying. And eventually, because, yeah, he does find Maria. However, when he thought he found Maria at first, because thinking that it was her, like, sitting on a bench and just, like this, like maybe she was just, upset and covering her face. Well, that was not her, because Maria, obviously she heard his voice when, Psst, it's me, Clouseau, and she called out for Clouseau, yeah, because she's hiding behind a bush, a hedge, basically, and, well, whom he thought was Maria, well, not be Marina, it was a dead girl. And yeah. And a few times where, Clouseau coming face to face with Maria, and when she is, face to face with a dead body, because there's one moment where the gardener had a bit of an interaction with Mr. Ballon. Didn't go so well, especially for the gardener. But, when we see Clouseau finding Maria at the garden section of the Ballon residence, and when he got chased by a dog, he meets with Maria, and she's holding the hedge clippers, and they've got blood on them, and and her, well, basically being framed, and even when Clouseau is starting to realize this. And coming back to them being in the nudist colony campsite, because another dead body, and, well, they have to basically get out of there. And then at one point, the commissioner, along with the other policemen, and the commissioner, being Charles Dreyfus, and can't forget to mention that at times in this movie, we see Charles Dreyfus, the commissioner, just his eye twitching. That's funny. And, even though he can't stand Clouseau, he can't deny that, and just, he has to go along with it, that, Clouseau needs to be a part of this case and such. And when he has to rehire Clouseau, And, there was a moment where Dreyfus's assistant, French Eye, again, however his name is pronounced, basically gives the commissioner what-ifs. Like, what if he's wrong? What if the commissioner is wrong? And what if Inspector Clouseau is right on what is going on with this murder case? And, towards Maria. And, who could possibly be the killer, and it's not Maria. So again, giving Commissioner Dreyfus what-ifs, and he's got a point, and he's got the commissioner right there. But so when at one point, because, they arrive at the, nudist colony campsite, and the commissioner praying that it's Clouseau who is the killer. But that's kind of taking it too far, because you really think that... Dude, you really think that Clouseau would be the killer? I don't think so. Like, as much as you can't stand Clouseau, that's kind of taking it too far. There's no way that he would do so. Not to mention, in the first Pink Panther film, and my dad and I talking about this, because the first Pink Panther movie ending off, where Clouseau is suspected to be the bad guy, and the movie ends with him going to jail. And how in this movie, it's never established with the events of the first Pink Panther film. I mean, I don't know if it's out there, just if it is technically explained, if Blake Edwards ever gave a statement on this, I don't know. But anyways, I just thought I'd mention it, and if you know, you know. So yeah. Anyways, again, Clouseau and Maria, they do get out of there, and them in a car, Clouseau behind the wheel, and a couple of times where, they are spotted and noticed that, they're naked, and people staring at them, and Maria is, almost about to scream, and Clouseau telling her to keep it together and pull yourself together and so on. But when ultimately, at one point, they get stuck in traffic with a bunch of small cars surrounding them, and everybody's looking at them, they see that they're naked, and that's when she lets it out, she screams, and he screams. And ultimately, they get arrested. Ugh. And this time, because, as I said, at times when Clouseau got arrested, and most notably being questioned if he has a license for this and that, and what we see in the back of the police vehicle, like, we see balloons outside of the police vehicle, or we would see Clouseau in his painter disguise, looking out the back windows of the police vehicle, or even when there was a moment where, he was disguised as a hunter at the Ballon residence, and a crow was aggravating him, and even when Clouseau threw something at the crow to get the crow to shut up, but the crow, basically pooped on the hat he was wearing, and he freaking shot the crow, and that's when another hunter at the Bellon residence approached him and asked him if he has a license for hunting and such. And him getting arrested again, and we see the Crow on string, just like on the doors, like, God. And when Clouseau and Maria got arrested because they were butt naked, policemen covering the windows. Oh my gosh. Oh, that was so funny. Alright, so anyways, so to speed things up still, because, well, after what happened with both Clouseau and Maria getting arrested because they were both butt naked, because Clouseau and Maria sticking close with Clouseau, because, Clouseau and Maria, they go out one evening, doing a lot of things, and, the commissioner being aware of this and so on, and as well as LaJoy, obviously, and, with Clouseau, why am I all of a sudden having trouble pronouncing his last name? Clouseau and Maria, they both go out, during the evening, doing so much, to a lot of, say, dance clubs and having dinner, and while they're doing all this, the killer, and we don't see the face yet, because we see the killer wearing black gloves and wearing black clothing, and the music that plays every time the mysterious killer pops up, and we only see, the only view we get for a little bit is just, the body and with the gloves and such, and attempting to, target and kill both Clouseau and Maria, but always missing them and getting other, innocent people, like a few butlers and a few of the dancers and stuff like that. Even when one of the last things that Clouseau and Maria do is go to this one dance club where, a Russian guy is, dancing, and Maria and Clouseau get involved in the dancing and also drinking and so on. And when it came to taking the next shot, the mysterious killer put some poison in it. But luckily for both Clouseau and Maria, they didn't drink it, and I should have seen it coming. The Russian dancer drinks it, and he collapses dead. The funny thing is that nobody noticed anybody that accidentally got killed by the killer, and even when the Russian dancer, collapsed dead. Anyways, but obviously they found out, not, like in a minute or so, I assume. And then Clouseau and Maria, they return to, in the apartment that Clouseau stays in. And, the killer, once again, showing up and leaving something at Clouseau's apartment door. And, with Clouseau and Maria, they were about to, make out and such, in the bed. The door buzzer rang, and obviously that being the killer, Maria telling Clouseau to go answer the door, and when he goes there, nobody's there, but he does notice on the floor that, something was left for Clouseau, and little does Clouseau know that, the killer left something for him. And when opening it, it's a clock, and yeah, it's obvious, because with it being a clock, with it ticking, a bomb is going to go off, and yeah. And when he sets it down, and he finds it, odd that, someone left a clock for him, and going back to do his business with Maria, not the best time for Kato to show up, and for some more karate lessons, and yeah, it just gets out of hand, and them just trying to stop Kato, and every time with Kato, taking karate lessons with Clouseau, and when not the best of times, poor Kato always getting knocked out unconscious, and yeah. And Clouseau dragging Kato, and his head hitting the steps, and, dragging his body into the kitchen. And when going back into the bedroom with Maria, boy, were they lucky, because, the bomb did go off. And, that's when we then see Clouseau back in the commissioner's office, and addressing to Clouseau that while they were out at night, 4 innocent victims were killed, and yeah, and just like the first 4 victims, as they say. And Clouseau assuring and addressing the commissioner that Maria was with him the whole time. And yeah, because she was. And it really shows, and by now, he knows, and us audience know that Maria is innocent, and she's being framed. And Clouseau also telling the commissioner that Clouseau has a plan / an idea for what is going to happen next at the Ballon residence mansion and so on. And very clever of what Clouseau is going to do, and with the aid of his partner LaJoy. And even when Clouseau winks at the commissioner, and when his eye twitches, God. And so when coming back to the Ballon residence, well, Clouseau meeting with the last remaining members of the Ballon residence from Benjamin and his wife, along with Mr. and Mrs. Lafarge and Maurice and also Dudu, one of the other maidens. So yeah. And to name off some of the other cast members, there was a camp attendant, obviously from the nudist colony campsite, being played by Brian Forbes. Pretty sure it might have been him playing the guitar. I don't know. There was also Game Warden being played by Andre Charisi, if I'm getting that right. Gendarme, if I'm getting that right too, being played by Howard Green. The Doctor being played by John Harrington. And the psychoanalyst, being played by Jack Melford. There was a taxi driver being played by Victor Bering, and another gendarme being played by Victor Beaumont. Yeah, and Kazakh dancer being played by Tuti Lemo. Yeah, I think I'm getting that right. But yeah, so anyways, and even like there was one moment where the commissioner was meeting with a psychiatrist, and the commissioner going on about, his feelings towards Clouseau and his hatred for Clouseau and just not getting some good sleep and some certain, foods he ate. Just golly, the commissioner being a handful, I tell you. But anyways, so again, with Inspector Clouseau meeting with the last remaining people of the Ballon residence and questioning them and going through the details on, the murder of Miguel, and even when, because having trouble pronouncing some specific words and when they correct Clouseau, and a mentioning of moths and so on, and the word month just... yeah, it's funny, but yeah. And of course, Clouseau getting into some clumsy situations like, falling off of a cushion or stepping on a few of their foots and knocking a table over. It's hilarious. And while he's doing that, well, because he has LaJoy go down to the basement and, have him count down to when he has to shut the power off. And, well, because... before Clouseau went inside the house, he had him and LaJoy check their watches, but all of a sudden their watches aren't working, and so he has LaJoy count down, having him count down himself and such, and that's what he does. And when he gets up to 200 and so on, jeez. Well, I mean, that's nice to see, how loyal LaJoy is and how, serious this situation is. And, well, we, of course, also happen to see that the killer is present at the Ballon residence. And Clouseau suspecting, some of them from Mr. Ballon and his wife and all the others. And, well, that's when everybody, from Maurice, Dominique, and some of the maidens, and even, Mr. and Mrs. Lafarge, they start to, accuse, one another, and so much talking and accusing, and, even pointing at Mr. Ballon, and how calm he is, and, his response and all this, and yeah, just them bickering at one another and accusing one another, and Clouseau just he's trying to get them to knock it off, and I think, like, this was kind of a fourth wall breaking moment where he did, because he looked directly at the camera, us at the audience, just like, because, like, like, what am I dealing with here? We know, we can tell by the look on his face. So that's funny. And, because, you always got to do fourth wall breakings the right way, and they got to make sense. And I think, in this case, for A Shot in the Dark, yeah, it worked. So anyways, and when coming back to LaJoy, well, because once he reaches to the specific number count, that's when he shuts the power off, and everybody panicking and such, and them running out of the mansion and getting into the car that Clouseau and LaJoy drove in. But before they did, and before the power was shut off, well, we see the killer installing some dynamite, in front of the car, the hood and such. Well, we see who the killer is. The camera pans up and we see the face of whom the killer really is. And yeah, I didn't see it coming. And again, like I said, whom I suspected could either one of them be the killers. Yeah, I was wrong. The killer, and whom is responsible for those murders and so on, is Charles Dreyfus with the twitching eye, and him being the commissioner, and the same guy who has a flaming hatred for Clouseau. Well, yeah. How did I not see that coming? And for anybody, any of you watching this movie for the first time. So yeah, and so again, he put in some dynamite in the car that Clouseau and LaJoy drove in, and well, yeah, when the power was shut off, thanks to LaJoy and everybody making their way out of the mansion and getting into the car, all of them managed to fit in the car, and Benjamin Ballon, behind the wheel, and they drive off, and Dreyfus, trying to get them to stop, and Clouseau stepping out, and Dreyfus telling Clouseau that, that the bomb is about to go off, and Clouseau, just like, what is going on? And we see, like, we don't see it on screen, but we see by the lighting that, yeah, the bomb has gone off, and pretty much they're all dead. Yeah, so that's the end of them. Bye-bye. Well, I mean, at least, yeah, we now know that neither one of them was the killer. Yeah, because it's Dreyfus. And, well, Maria is no longer framed and such. And, well, Dreyfus basically, coming out and, just telling Clouseau that the bomb in the car that he drove, it was meant for him. Like, Clouseau was supposed to be in the car and when the bomb went off. But instead, all of those in the Ballon residence, yeah, they were the ones that got killed by the bomb. And Dreyfus just collapsing on the ground and grabbing Clouseau's leg and just getting so emotional and telling Clouseau that I hate you so much, and he even like bites Clouseau's leg, and then LaJoy stepping in trying to stop Dreyfus, and he goes for LaJoy biting his leg, and this guy's crazy, and just yeah, he's totally not fit being the commissioner, well, because he's the bad guy, so yeah, so it's off to jail for him, and well, all ends well, and poor Maria, well, she's no longer framed. She's safe and in the hands of Clouseau. Yeah, a happy ending for them. But, and as they start to kiss, well, out of nowhere, and oh my gosh, not him again, and not a perfect time to show up. Kato pops up. Like, how did he get there? And how did he know that Clouseau would be there? Well, who cares? And he's Kato, so yeah. Kato rushing at Clouseau and causing all three of them to fall into the pond. Well, the fountain, sorry, the fountain. And yeah, and that's how the movie ends. Wow. I mean, obviously, with these movies, Pink Panther and such, would have to end off in a funny situation. Definitely, yeah. A Shot in the Dark. Yeah, wow. Just, I really enjoyed it. It was a really good movie in the Pink Panther movie series, not having anything to do with the Pink Panther diamond and, well, with the Pink Panther being in the opening credits. A Shot in the Dark, yeah, it's really good. From the story, and with the cast of characters, and, whom is suspected and framed, and, with Maria, and with those that live in the Balon mansion, and with the commissioner, Clouseau's partner, LaJoy, and all the other characters that are in this film. They were all great. The funny moments and the unexpected moments, and some really good sequences, like, most notably, the nudist colony campsite, and clumsy and funny situations that Clouseau and the other characters get themselves into, along with Clouseau. The music and score, fantastic, of course, and and with the surprising reveal of who the killer is, the twists, and so on. What more do I have to say? A Shot in the Dark is a really good film in the Pink Panther movie series, and I'm giving A Shot in the Dark, this sounds about right. I'm giving it 8 out of 10 stars. Yes, 8 out of 10 stars for A Shot in the Dark. And what about you guys? What did you think of A Shot in the Dark itself? Is it one of your favorite films in the Pink Panther movie series? This one film, one of these films that has nothing to do with the Pink Panther whatsoever, and, still having Inspector Clouseau, what were some of your favorite moments in A Shot in the Dark? Which did you laugh the hardest in A Shot in the Dark, with Inspector Clouseau and, all the other characters? Did you not see it coming, whom the killer was, and everything else that happens in this movie? Say, aside from whom the killer is, you didn't see the part where Clouseau finds himself at a nudist colony campsite, or other situations that he gets himself into. Overall, what do you think of A Shot in the Dark itself, and with what I've had to say, my review, and what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of A Shot in the Dark. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video / review. And stay tuned, because the next film I'm going to be reviewing, well, we go from a film that has to do with a clumsy inspector to a stop-motion film about a sneaky, clever, and fantastic fox. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm sure you do. Again, stay tuned for that. Take care, happy anniversary to A Shot in the Dark, and until I review the rest of the Pink Panther films, peace out.